Good afternoon and welcome to the St. Pete Chamber's 2021 Legislative Preview. I am Matt Lettler, Vice President of Advocacy for the St. Pete Chamber. Before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to recognize and thank our advocacy patrons for this year. Duke Energy, Spectrum, Johnson Pope, St. Anthony's Baycare, Omni Public, Shoemaker Loop and Kendrick / Shoemaker Advisors, Florida Blue, HP Capital Group, Kimley Horn, Fifth Third Bank, Chaff Properties, and Doyle Wealth Management. Thank you for your support of our advocacy efforts this year. I'd also like to thank our two moderators today, Jason Rodriguez from St. Anthony's Baycare and Albie Kaminsky from Spectrum. Before we hear from our panel, we have a special message from Florida's Chief Financial Officer, Jimmy Petronis.
Hello, I'm Chief Financial Officer Jimmy Petronis. Thank you for all that you do to support Florida's businesses, employers, and job creators. I'm excited to join you virtually today, take this great opportunity to discuss my legislative priorities and some of the top issues impacting our great state. The 2021 legislative session will be an interesting one. The pandemic certainly changed everything and will set the tone and tenor of this session. Legislators will be very focused on addressing the pandemic response, finding relief for their constituents, and making tough budget decisions. I was a legislator in the last Great Recession. I still remember the pain of the tough decisions we had to make back then. Luckily, I think we're in a better place than we were then. The legislature, the governor, the cabinet, through leadership, have made smart decisions. Going into the pandemic, Florida's economy was white hot. We had a flourishing environment, a AAA bond rating and all. The pandemic is a storm that Florida is still weathering, but there's sunshine on the other side. Unlike other states, we fought to keep Florida's businesses open. The last several months, I've been traveling the state on my Business Liability Protections tour, hearing directly from business owners like yourself, healthcare institutions, and other non-for-profits related to the fears of opening with COVID-19. We have businesses, and those including our hospitals, non-for-profit organizations, who are fearful. We don't want our small businesses to fall prey to unscrupulous lawyers, activist judges that allow for a sue and settle environment. If businesses are abiding by CDC guidelines, observing social distancing, doing everything they can to protect their employees and their customers, they should be protected from frivolous litigation. As our state and federal leaders work tirelessly to press forward a vaccine distribution to protect the safety of our people, I'm laser focused on advocating for vital COVID liability protections. We've already seen trial balloons go up with Walmart, Amazon, McDonald's. We cannot allow a sue and settle type of environment to happen in the state of Florida. Currently, bills are moving through both chambers. I'll continue to work with Speaker Sprouse and President Simpson and members of the legislature to ensure that these safeguards are enacted for Florida's business community. I look forward to working with all of you through these measures through the finish line. As Florida's CFO, I've had my finger on the pulse of the economic effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. I've been closely monitoring the impacts to our state's financial health moving forward. With COVID-19, we've seen businesses shutter in our state's budget. It's projected to have a $3 billion shortfall over the next 2 years. At the Department of Financial Services, we're doing our part to protect the budget. In tough times, we must work hard to identify efficiencies, streamline operations, do more with less, while continuing to provide the important services our citizens rely on. I'm confident Florida's economy will recover, and we're not going to stop working until every Floridian who wants a job has that opportunity to pursue their dreams in our great state. In closing, I want to thank you for working to ensure the successes of our great state. Despite the recent challenges due to COVID-19, Florida's future is oh so bright. As a fourth-generation Floridian, I truly believe there's no better place to live, work, have a business than right here in the Sunshine State. Thank you, Chris, and the entire team at the St. Pete Chamber for having me today. My office is your office, so do not hesitate to reach out to me anytime. Thank you for your commitment to helping build a better, stronger Florida.
All right, thanks, Matt, for playing the video. We are fortunate to have a sponsor of something that we're very interested in, the COVID Liability Protection bills, and our delegation with us today, Senator Brandis. Senator, I love your background. I hope that's not an indication of how session will go. Would, would you mind sharing with us some details about the legislation and also some of your other top priorities?
Yeah, happy to. I'm excited to be with y'all. I've come to the point in Zoom where enough of these every day. I just like to switch up the backgrounds and have fun with it. So look, we're working on two different bills for COVID liability. One is basically any business that's not a healthcare provider, and then one specific to healthcare providers. There are some differences. There's some similarities as well. Let's talk about the business bill real quick. The business bill first sets the standard for a suit at gross negligence. So you have to be able to prove by gross negligence with clear and convincing evidence that a business committed gross negligence. This is not like leaving the salt shaker on the table. That would be considered simple negligence and exposing somebody to COVID. This is like knowing that an employee had COVID and telling them to come back and work in your restaurant while they were actively infected. So that would be considered gross negligence, in my opinion. So that's the kind of standard that we're thinking that we need. Obviously, most businesses had no clue how to deal with the pandemic. Even the hospitals and nursing homes were overwhelmed. We need to recognize that. So it requires that somebody, before they sue you, go get a physician's note. This is similar to what we do in medical malpractice, similar to what we do in asbestos cases, which is to have a physician say there's a proximate cause and a relationship between their claim and their illness. It wasn't when they're doing their medical history and they find out, oh, by the way, your mom had COVID while you live with her, and you so probably didn't get it from the grocery store. You probably got it from your mom. So so trying to head some of the sue and settle lawsuits off at the front end. So really, those are the main points of the legislation. Some of the main differences are that the healthcare bill doesn't require a clear and convincing standard yet. It only requires a preponderance of the evidence, and it doesn't require the physician's affidavit. They both have to be at that gross negligence standard, and for both of them, there's a 1-year statute of limitations from the date that you either died or were sick from COVID to file the claim. So we're really trying to narrow the window, recognize this is a global pandemic, that in nursing homes and hospitals, a trash bag, a shower cap, and a homemade mask was the PPE that you had from March until sometimes June or July, and that a COVID test early on was a thermometer, which is a crude tool at best. So it's hard to ask healthcare providers to MacGyver their way through a global pandemic and then not be there for them on the back end.
Great. Thank you, Senator. We appreciate that.
Awesome. Gentlemen, I don't believe that we have Senator Roos on yet. I believe his aide is on, but we'll go ahead and move on to Representative Diamond, if that's all right with you.
Sure.
Representative Diamond, what are your priorities this year?
Great to be on. Great to be here with my colleagues from the Pinellas delegation. I just want to thank everybody at the Chamber for staying involved in these issues. It's been a really challenging time, as you can imagine, to be trying to legislate in Tallahassee in the middle of a pandemic and to do it safely. And like Senator Brandis, I think we're all a little zoomed out. So thank you for being on. I'm focused, as is, I know, Senator Brandis, on some of these insurance issues, and particularly the way climate change and flooding is impacting St. Petersburg. And I know from my discussions with you, Matt, that you have had some good work going on at the Chamber on the resiliency issues. We have neighborhoods in our community, as you all know, like Shore Acres, that are flooding often. That tropical storm that came through a few months ago flooded out a whole bunch of folks. And there are some real challenges right now in our property insurance market that I think we need to address. And there are some real challenges we have ongoing as a state and as a community, given where we lie. And given the changing climate and extreme weather events, I think we've got to be focused on those, and we got to work on those together. I think we can, in a bipartisan way. And then just candidly working on our budget priorities as a state. You know, I mean, we're going into this situation and writing a budget with far less revenue than we would normally have as a result of COVID. So we're going to have to make some tough choices. I think we've got to prioritize our spending correctly and not just cut across the board. And lastly, I'd like to see our legislature actually hold some of these agencies accountable for their actions and some of the things that haven't gone well in here. And I think that's our job. You know, we see agencies that have spent a whole bunch of taxpayer money on different projects, different contracts. I'm thinking about the the unemployment benefit debacle. And, you know, it's our job to ask the tough questions in public hearings and make sure that agencies understand that if they're going to be awarding multi-million-dollar contracts and things don't work, that they have to come in and account to the people for that. So I'd like us to take an active role there. And then lastly, in terms of our transportation planning, I just think we have to really revisit where our priorities are as a state. As I've been discussing in the media, you know, we're moving forward with these plans to build these rural toll roads, which I know are popular with the road builders, and I'm not in any way anti-road, but when you've got real transportation problems in urban communities like ours, and I know I've read your legislative agenda, you know, we're delaying the West Shore Interchange, and that's the interchange that we all sit on the Howard Franklin Bridge, because that thing is a mess. And, you know, there's a plan to fix that, but it got kicked back 2 years. I just think we have to revisit our transportation priorities and make sure that FDOT is actually working on the things that are going to move the needle in terms of helping Floridians get around. So anyway, that's just a little summary of things on my mind, and look forward to the discussion. Thanks, Matt.
Oh, man, I think you're on mute, but I will. Oh, there we go. Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you. And good afternoon, everybody. Again, as Matt said, my name is Albie Kaminsky. I serve as the co-chair of the Legislative Committee along with Jason over there. So excited to continue this process here in an extraordinary year. So Chairman, thank you for getting back on video like this. Chairman DeSegli, thank you for jumping on here today. I know we touched a little bit on the insurance world, but who better to hear from on the chairman of insurance and banking. So kind of wanted to hear a little bit more about your perspective, what you see coming out of this legislative session, specifically out of your committee, and any other thoughts you might have.
Thank you, Albie. Thank you all for having me today. It's good to be with my colleagues. It's been you know, these are very, very interesting and unique times, but specifically to insurance and banking, obviously, there's no secret that when we look at the property side of insurance, we've got homeowners premiums going up, you know, 15, 20, 30, even sometimes 40%. We've got Citizens growing 3,000 policyholders per week. That is a symptom of an insurance market that, quite frankly, is just it's not stable. And so we see in the Senate that Senator Boyd, who also chairs on that side, it's called Banking Insurance. He's got some reforms moving through there that touch on these issues. Obviously, you know, they talk about multiplier attorney fees. They talk about you know, assessing values for roofs. We've got an issue with roofs in this state. On the House side, we're kind of internally going through some of the data. We're, you know, strategizing exactly what type of reform we're going to roll out here likely shortly. But the point is, you know, many of these folks are recovering from this pandemic. So whether it's property, whether it's commercial side of insurance, there's a significant problem here, and we're the goal. Certainly, my goal is to strike that balance I've been meeting with stakeholders on a regular basis here, get their concerns, get their ideas. And at the end of the day, my goal is to ensure that the consumer is the one that's going to ultimately benefit from these reforms. We've got to stabilize the market. We've got to, stop the bleeding, if you will. And so, there's many ideas out there, but, at the end of the day, we've got a highly litigious environment here in the state of Florida. It's been like that for a number of years. I'm not here to pick on that side at all. The insurance companies certainly have a responsibility to do what's right for the policyholder. And my point there is that it is my responsibility as the chair of the subcommittee to find that balance, to stabilize the market, and ultimately the consumer, our constituents, are going to be the ones to benefit from that. Certainly, I joke with folks because I live in Indian Rocks Beach, so I've got homeowners, flood insurance, and I've got windstorm insurance. As a small business owner with a fleet of refuse vehicles, I carry a large line of auto liability insurance. So I am a consumer, probably more so than most. So I fully understand what the challenges are, and certainly I think we've got the right people at the table on the House side to put together some really good reforms here with myself, Chair Rommel. He filed a property insurance bill, and certainly Chair Angolia, who chairs Commerce, also a business owner. We've got the right people at the table to do the right thing here, and I look forward to the conversations with my colleagues like Representative Ben Diamond, who have experiences from the attorney side. That's important to make sure that they're obviously important part of this conversation. And certainly Senator Brandis has been a great champion on the Senate side. He is really understands this issue. He sees where this has been the last few years, and so I think we're poised to have some good solid reforms here to stabilize the market and hopefully ultimately lower these premiums for the consumer.
Thank you, Representative. I think we have Chair Rousson on, so we'd like to hear from the Senate Ag Committee Chair, Darrell Rousson. Senator, I know that criminal justice reform is a passion that you share with Senator Brandis. We'd like to hear what you're hoping to accomplish this year in that area, as well as in the ag space that you now lead.
Well, thank you very much for this opportunity, and I can't stay long. I'm going to be joining the Attorney General Ashley Moody over in Tampa this afternoon as she announces increased in reward money for Crime Stoppers. So I'm going to have to run. But criminal justice, Senator Jeff Brandis has been a great and strong ally in the Florida Senate for many years on this topic. And we think a lot alike on many of the issues. We haven't been able to push as many of them forward as we would like over the years, but I think this year brings unique opportunity for people because people are listening. It's neither a Republican nor Democratic issue, it's a justice issue. The prison system is broken. We need to do better by reentry programs. We need to do better about stopping crime in our communities so that jobs and economic development can really flourish. And so I intend to work strongly with Senator Brandis on those issues, as well as strike out on some of my own. As chair of the Agriculture Committee, agriculture is the second leading industry in the state of Florida, behind only tourism. And there are 104,000 jobs in Pinellas County alone that are agriculture or agriculture related. Within the purview of this committee comes food insecurities, food deserts, school lunches. We've seen a lot of need for food during this pandemic. One of my top priorities is the beefing up and providing statutory substance to the Office of Minority Health. As you know, the pandemic has ripped the scab off the wound, and many communities of color have been suffering because of healthcare disparities and dying at greater rates than our counterparts. So I'm going to work hard on beefing up that office. I have a bill in that was brought to me by Councilwoman Brandy Gabbard that deals with urban agriculture. It gets its first hearing next week in my own committee, the Agriculture Committee. I have a sneaky suspicion it might pass, but it would open up the doors for urban cores to increase agricultural growth and farming within the urban core. As you know, in St. Petersburg, we have Brick Street Farms, which is on 22nd Street and about 3rd Avenue South, that takes old shipping containers and retrofits them and hydroponically grows produce and supplies it to local restaurants as well as to Publix. Then maybe 10 blocks away, there's traditional farming in St. Pete Eco Village, 15th Street Farm right near the police department. Two stark examples of what we can do to deal with the food insecurity, the food crisis. So I'm going to work hard on making sure that makes it all the way to the finish line. And lastly, there's some bad bills that we're going to be working to defeat, like Senate Bill 90 by Senator Baxley. Just when vote by mail has been working, and just when supervisor of elections have been raving about early voting and vote by mail, we want to go and tinker, and I mean we, not in the universal sense, tinker with what has been working well. We think that's a bad bill that he's filed. Julie Marcus, supervisor of election, opposes the bill, says it will cost Pinellas County $350,000 in July of this year if the bill passes, to start all over and re-register people for vote by mail. And Senate Bill 48 that deals with education, expansion of the voucher program. There are a lot of things that we're going to be fighting for and against.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Senator, and thank you for making the time today. I know everybody's got a busy schedule around this time, and it'll certainly be an exciting event there too with the Attorney General. So appreciate you jumping on and making some time, Senator.
Thank you.
And another person we would like to hear from today is Representative Linda Cheney. Thank you for joining us today, Representative. And we would love to hear a little bit more about how your first session is going, recently elected into the Florida House, and tell us a little bit about how your first session is going so far. Obviously, probably not what you expected when you first decided to file for running, but love to hear a little bit more about what you're working on this year.
Oh, Representative, you're on mute.
Okay, there you
Thank
go.
you.
You'd think by the millionth Zoom, I would have that down, right? Thank you so much for putting this panel together. I can't agree with what all my colleagues have said more. What a great group of people. And the biggest surprise I have had as a freshman in the House is how well everyone works together and working across the aisles. And I've established a lot of great relationships with my fellow members from both parties. And I'm really impressed with the quality and caliber of people who are at the House and the Senate, and their commitment to the state and the people of Florida, regardless of party and even through disagreement. So I want to really acknowledge that, because it's worth acknowledging, particularly in today's political climate. So being in Pinellas County, House District 69, South Pinellas Beaches, tourism is front and center for us. And getting tourism back on its feet, which is projected not to be at pre-pandemic levels till maybe as late as 2024. So that's obviously a focus for me. What can we do to help those businesses, and which we have seen the shortfall in the state budget driven a lot by the shortfall in tourism. So this is a big issue that should concern every Floridian. And tied right into that is infrastructure, which interestingly, those are the committees that I'm on. Infrastructure, Tourism, Appropriates Committee for one, Tourism, Infrastructure, and Energy Subcommittee. And at first I thought, now how does that tie together? But it absolutely ties together. The conversations we've been having, similar to what Representative Diamond said, around sea level rise, preparing our communities to be more resilient against storms. And not only is that a concern of our residents, but for our tourism and for our businesses. So we've had lots of conversations around that. I've got some legislation pending that should help our communities, our residents better prepare to be more resilient against storms, and the long-term future of that, both short-term and long-term. And tied right into all of that is the projected 30% growth that we're going to have in the state of Florida, and to handling that from a responsible, smart growth planning perspective that takes into consideration all our infrastructure needs, like our roads, as well as building storm resilient communities, and as we move forward. And then of course, strengthening our economy in a safe manner. And one of the bills that I believe touches on that a bit is one that I filed on behalf of USF Heart Health Institute that will give them access to a portion of the unused Lawton Childs Endowment Fund that's a result of the tobacco settlement. So we've seen some unusual results from COVID regarding heart health. So research in that area will be valuable as well as ongoingly. And USF Heart Health Institute is attracting a lot of really impressive talent into our community, which supports other business into our community. And then that gets on to one of my other committees, which is early education. Improving the quality of education in our community continues to be a concern of myself and my other legislatures, as well as the speaker. And from K through college, trade schools, building an attractive workforce, which, thereby will build attractive employers into our economy. And now we're right back around to smart growth and community planning and infrastructure and storm resiliency, and it's all coming back around. So that's where my focus is with my committees, as well as supporting the other initiatives that are coming out of the House. The COVID liability bill, I think, is really important. I was happy to see that. And I've got lots of appropriations requests in for my beach communities, primarily because they are so impacted by storms and sea level rise. So roadway improvements, sewer improvements, and then a project that is really dear to my heart that Senator Rasan and I are working on together. And I'm kind of surprised he didn't mention it, because I know how excited he is about it. The Science Center in St. Petersburg, and renovating that and bringing that back to life as a science and STEM hub. We've got so many really interesting companies, and nonprofit and for-profit, that are stepping up and saying that they're really interested in seeing that come back to life and partner and effectively manage and run that facility. That I can see that as a real hub for science and STEM that's going to feed into our education system and into our businesses, and be a real legacy project for all of the people who support it. So I ask for everybody here's support, and I look forward to working together with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. We'll now transition into to questions from the audience. So if you have any questions for our esteemed panelists, please raise your hand or put your question in the chat function, and Matt will call on you. Thank you.
Great. Well, I do have a question that came in via text from our Vice Chair of Public Policy, Brooks Wallington. It's for Senator Brandis. Senator Brandis, you filed some legislation that would sunset TBARTA next year in 2022. Can you tell us why you feel TBARTA needs to dissolve, and how do you propose that we improve regional connectivity without a regional authority?
Sure. So TBARTA has been around for over a decade. Name me one thing they've done.
Is that rhetorical?
I'm just asking anybody on the panel to name me one thing they've done. So you have an entity where the CEO makes more than the governor, manages 12 people. They have, gone into exploring projects like gondolas and Hyperloop and all kinds of things. They're really a duplicative body in the state, in the regional transportation arena. They're basically relegated to studies. They don't have the ability to actually complete anything that they study. And so you have, let me give you just some of the other planning entities that could easily do their work. In Pinellas, you've got Forward Pinellas that could partner with Hillsborough. You've got the counties that do the work. You've got District 7 in FDOT that does the work. You've got multiple MPOs that could easily do what they do. Essentially, the only thing that TBARTA really has internally is a van pool, which PSTA used to operate. And frankly, PSTA and HART could both do that work as well. So it's a duplicative entity. I have no problem if the counties want to get together and establish their own entity to do regional planning. But understand, you have about 6 entities out there today that do regional planning. They are the appendix of the local regional planning operation. Nobody knows what they really do. And, if we cut them out, you'll be just fine.
Would any of our other panelists like to talk about TBARTA? Ben?
I'll jump in. Yeah, I recognize that Senator Brandis has a strong point of view on this, and we always have to figure out how we can make government work efficiently, more efficiently. I think the question is, if a bill like this passes, what do we replace TBARTA with, and how do we do the regional planning, and how do we do it effectively? And I think if I could sort of reframe a little bit with what I'm hearing Senator Brandis's frustration, it's in the bill, I don't support the bill because I think we need a regional planning agency, but I think the frustration is sort of how do we make regional transportation planning more effective for Tampa Bay? And I would argue that the way we do that is make sure that we're directing resources to the agencies that are charged with those responsibilities. But one of the things I've learned as I've gotten involved with transportation work is that we are competing with other regions around the state for federal dollars. So, this is a big game in terms of establishing the fact that as a region, we are all singing from the same page. Orlando has sort of figured that out. And I'd like us to figure that out. And so, I think Senator Brandis has started what I think will be an important conversation over the course of the next couple of weeks, which is, okay, if we don't think TBARTA is is leading us in a satisfactory way here, then how do we do that? What do we replace it with? And so, or how do we fund them in a way that they can fulfill the mission that they were initially created to fulfill?
Well, Senator Diamond, Senator, I called him Senator, Representative Diamond, that was not a Freudian slip. Jumped in before I could weigh in, but I do have a bill that passed its first committee unanimously last week in the Senate that would streamline, make TBARTA more effective. I think Representative Diamond is right. Senator Brandis' bill raises a discussion point, but Senator Brandis is not alone in his thought process. I've talked to elected officials in Hillsborough County who are leading the charge that his bill passes and that TBARTA is abolished. I think the discussion should be, number one, do we need regional transportation? The answer to that is yes. Do we need a body that concentrates and focuses on regionalism? The answer to that is yes. So it's not to abolish and then to redirect the money to parochial agencies or agencies that are narrowly focused on their own locality, but something that better spends and is more accountable and is more transparent than what TBARTA has been like. So my bill, I hope it passes, even if Senator Brenda's bill makes it through the process. And I don't think it has a House companion yet, does it?
It's coming.
Well, and we keep hearing that. This is the first Senate session where I've seen so many Senate bills running through the process with no House companion. And every time we raise the issue, they say it's coming. That means we're going to be in for quite a surprise near the end, either a big package or a big train or a big letdown. That's why we need to pass my bill on TBARTA.
Look, TBARTA hasn't met since October.
Well, my bill takes care of that, Senator. It allows the mayors to designate a council person or a commission person to sit on there instead of them coming. I mean, you got some support for what you're doing, but the real question, like Representative Diamond says, and I just echo it, is how do we get it focused? How do we concentrate on regionalism? Because we are a region. You know, I have to travel the Skyway or the Howard Franklin to get to Apollo Beach.
I get it. Well, I think the first thing we should talk about is merging MPOs. Merge the MPOs, have a conversation about that. I think that would give you both the planning and the dollars that could actually implement the ideas. And then, we can have a conversation about letters of agreement between HART and PSTA or other entities to do more of the regional planning. But, it's just this appendix out there that nobody really knows what to do with. And, putting more money into an appendix that you don't know what to do with is, seems like a government thing to do.
Well, thank you both. This is a great conversation, and Ben Diamond, thank you for your comments as well. Let's go to something a little less controversial. Given that the Electoral College is quite unrepresentative of the population, is there any support for the compact that would require the state to vote its electoral votes with the national popular vote? I think that there are states with about 190 votes already signed on, and that's from Paul Carter, retired.
No. You would take away the vote of smaller states, and basically it would allow California, New York, Florida, Texas to determine the outcome of most elections.
Representative Diamond.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was trying to make sure I was not on mute. Yeah, I have not been persuaded yet by it that we should abandon the Electoral College system, and I would be glad to sit down with Paul. I've met with other people. They've shared with me these proposals, and there was obviously, look, there was a compromise done back when we got started as a country, and it's not perfect, but I'm not sure we go in that direction. I'm certainly willing to listen more, but that's where my head is today.
Senator Ruston, if you're still with us, do you have any thoughts on the Electoral College?
As imperfect as it is, it's still the best system that we have.
Representative DeSegli?
Yeah, I'm having some video issues. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Well, I'm glad to hear we've got agreement there. Obviously, the Electoral College is something that has worked, since the founding of our nation. And, the last thing that I would like to see regardless of political viewpoints, is having large states, whether it be California, whether it be New York, whether it be Florida, to ultimately determine nationally our president. And so I think that what we have clearly works. Nothing is perfect, but again, I still think that it's something that that I certainly would never support. I'm fully supportive of the Electoral College for all the obvious reasons.
And Representative Cheney?
Yep, not to be boring, but ditto, 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 ditto. Yes.
Great, thank you. Well, this is a question from Sean King, and I'm going to promote Sean so he can just ask it himself, because I'm sure he wants to add something to it. Where is he? There we go. Sean, I'm going to promote you to panelist so you can ask your question. Go ahead, Sean.
All right. Didn't realize I was going to be promoted here. But of course, my question surrounds the Sadowski Affordable Housing Trust Fund. But Senator Hooper is co-sponsoring Senate Bill 510, which would in fact block the Sadowski Affordable Housing Trust Fund from being swept for general revenue or budget stabilization purposes unless there's a declared emergency. Obviously, this would provide billions in funding over time for affordable housing. Simple question, do you support this legislation?
Senator Rousseau's a thumbs up.
I'm yes on that.
Brandis?
I'm telling you, it's not going to pass. Legislators want flexibility, and the simple truth is, I'm not a fan of the way we do Sadowski anyways. I think we should just do block grants to the counties. I think that we would get much better results if we do that. The fact that Pinellas County gets, 1 or 2 affordable housing projects every 3 or 4 years, and that we build 100 units, and we think that that's scalable, great affordable housing. I want to see us turn it into block grants to the counties. I think that would have a much more dramatic impact than the cobbled Sadowski fund that we have today, that's split partially to the counties and partially to apartment complexes, many of which will never be built in Pinellas.
I heard that as yes.
Representative DeSegli?
Yeah, I think look, I was very pleased that we didn't raid the Sadowski fund last legislative session. I also think that flexibility is important. I'm very interested in what Senator Brandis's concept, what he just said. I think that's an interesting idea. But again, I think all of us support the idea of affordable housing, especially coming out of a pandemic. Many folks are getting back up and running, getting back to work, etc. It's certainly a priority. But I do think that flexibility, especially during these circumstances, are important. And if I'll take a further look if the bill comes before me in committee or on the House floor.
And Representative Cheney, any thoughts on Sadowski?
The problem with going last is what everybody says is what I agree with. So it seems like I have no original thoughts. But I do think flexibility in the budget is important. I also think affordable housing is important. So I too would like to investigate some other options like Senator Brandis was suggesting. But at this time, I don't think I can support that bill, but I need to look more into it.
Great. I have an anonymous question that came in. Regarding USF and the consolidation, and for Senator Brandis and Representative Diamond, who were here back in 2017 when those were passed, and Senator Rousseau is still with us, what have you seen as the pitfalls in that, and what do you see going forward? How USF St. Pete is going to exist as a part of USF Tampa and still thrive? So Senator Rousseau, if you want to go first.
Yeah, I'll go first. I've co-introduced the bill with Senator Brandis that reconstitutes the board, gives St. Pete campus more autonomy, and hopefully will start a reversing trend in terms of the number of African Americans and minorities admitted and allowed an opportunity for collegiate education at a premier university right here in the city. So I'm supportive of change and supportive of growth.
Senator Brandis, would you like to piggyback on that?
Sure. Look, I want assist. The USF St. Petersburg is the crown jewel of the USF system. You can go live off of Fowler and live off the ugliest road in America, or you can live in $1 million condo in a dorm in downtown St. Petersburg. And I think the key is getting kids on campus. So that's why we're working to move admissions back over to campus. I think it's important. Nobody's going to sell St. Pete like the people that live in St. Pete, the people that leave it, breathe it every day. And we need the university to make significant investments here. We have laid out a plan that will create these 5 verticals, whether it be in health and marine sciences. You're going to be seeing some announcements on that really shortly. We've got some focus on business, focus on healthcare, focus on finance, focus on the arts, focus on education. Those handful of verticals, to me, really speak to the things that St. Pete make our community just fantastic, and what makes us different than every other university. We can directly tie you to an apprenticeship, an internship, or a job in any one of those areas, and they can't do that in most universities in the state or in the country. So to me, what's so exciting is the business community re-engaging with the university, us growing the board, us feeling like we have a say in who's running that institution, because we're, while I think it was necessary that we join the preeminent university at USF and that you get 1 degree, it's not a USF St. Pete degree, it's a USF degree. And I'm all for working with the regional campus. I think we have to recognize that what we have is special and unique in the state of Florida. And if we don't own it and we don't take charge of it and our businesses don't invest in it and we don't invest in our businesses, then it's going to continue to be a stepchild, and we're fighting not to be that.
And in full disclosure, since I'm the only legislator on this panel that represents Fowler Avenue, as well as downtown St. Pete, where St. Pete USF is located, Fowler is not so ugly, Senator.
It's pretty ugly.
Well, I'll just chime. I'm with Senator Brandis on that one. But yeah, but yeah, no. First of all, I just want to say it's been so great to work with both of you on this issue, and you guys have been unbelievable champions for USF St. Pete. And I can agree with your comments more. All joking about Fowler Avenue aside, I'll just add one other point on this issue, which I've learned is important. It's sort of like Watergate, follow the money. I mean, there are going to be some really important decisions that are going to be made at the university level in terms of where they're investing resources. And then we as a legislature have important decisions to make in the upcoming budget year. And the more time I've spent on this issue, the more I've learned that the budget drives priorities. And, I think we as a legislative delegation have to hold the university's feet to the fire and make sure that the university is prioritizing and investing in USF St. Pete as well, which I know they've committed to do, and we're going to hold them to that commitment, whether it's through the admissions work and the recruitment work, or through new programs, or through what Senator Brandis has been trying to spearhead in terms of working with the business community to identify areas of excellence that we can pursue. But the investment has to be there, and the leadership has to be there internally with the university, that commitment. And then we as a legislative delegation are obviously going to do everything we can from a budget perspective to see that we're investing in our hometown campus as well.
Excellent, excellent. So we got time for one last question. This is from David Vetter from Tech Data. This is for everyone. So we'll start with Representative Cheney. Interesting question here. How do the legislative priorities around resiliency and economic growth also provide for equity in any of these initiatives that we're talking about or haven't talked about today?
I'd like him to clarify what he means by provide for equity.
Well, let me see if I can get Mr. Vetter promoted just a second.
My friends, I got to run. I'm sorry, I have to check
Thank you,
out.
Senator. Appreciate it. Mr. Vetter, can you clarify your question for Representative Cheney?
Sure. Hi, thank you all for your time today. What I mean by that is, over the past year, we've seen different segments of our society impacted very differently relative to both the resiliency issues and the issues associated with loss of opportunity in the economy. And my question is, how are we trying to ensure that as we build a strong economy, we do that in a way that creates opportunity at all levels of our society and our communities?
Well, I don't see that any of the legislation that I'm involved with focuses on any socioeconomic group, and the tide comes in and all boats rise. Senator Roussan seemed to have some specific focus there, but my legislation is to set the table for all businesses to do well, like COVID liability, whether you're small business, big business. And in preparing communities for resiliency, those grants are available to any size community. So I'm not seeing our planning and our trying to promote business from a socioeconomic standpoint. I'm seeing it from a totalitarian standpoint for all of Florida.
Can I just jump in and add a comment? I didn't know if Senator Brandis, if you wanted to go first.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, this word resiliency is really interesting. It has a lot of different meanings. I mean, and one of the places, when we think about resiliency is just what we've lived through with this pandemic, and the differential health outcomes that we've seen from one part of the county to another because of the inequities in access to healthcare. I mean, that has become so apparent to all of us as a result of this thing. And, there's a lot of great work going on at the Foundation for Healthy St. Petersburg. I've been following that work, how we make sure that everybody in our city and our community attains the highest, levels of health and access to care. I mean, this thing has just brought that home. And so, it's interesting when people talk about resiliency, there's this like pandemic response to it too. And it's like two worlds in terms of what we've been living through. And so again, it's follow the money and look at the investments. I think there's opportunities in terms of how we're funding our public health infrastructure that we can do a lot more that will move the needle in terms of equity.
Excellent. And I apologize. I lost power at my house, so I had to rejoin by my phone. Have we heard from Representative DeSegli on this issue?
No, thank you, Matt. Look, I think, when we talk about the economy, the best thing, in my opinion, that has happened here in the state of Florida is that, from the leadership from our governor, that our economy is open. Businesses have been open for several months. Folks are getting back to work. There are so many things that we're going to be, touching on here in this legislative session. House Bill 7 with COVID liability is going to be a big part of that. And I bring that up in more of a broad term, because if folks are not working, if folks are not able to pay the bills, then there's more pressure on these government programs. There's more pressure on the federal government. we're going to go into trillions and trillions of dollars of more debt. And I just think that, you know, what we've done here in the state of Florida, what the governor's done, what, you know, hopefully the legislature is prepared and poised to do here, is something that I think is sending a loud message to the rest of the country in how to deal with these extraordinary circumstances. And, you know, coming from a blue collar industry myself, you know, knowing that many of these employees are, you know, they struggle to you know, to pay the bills during these severe economic times, and just the fact that, you know, we're open, the fact that, you know, this economic impact has been severe in our state, it is nowhere near what some of these other states have been experiencing. And so I think that we need to continue, you know, going down this road, making sure that our businesses are open, and as these numbers, the COVID numbers continue to improve, the positivity rate continues to decline, that our economy begins to open up even more, so that we can get the tourism sector back. I mean, that's going to be an industry, you know, that is going to be lagging in its recovery. And so, you know, because obviously people aren't traveling the way they were a year ago. And so, you know, obviously my point of view is to make sure that that we're open, make sure that when the economy does come roaring back, that we as a state, you know, touch on these various issues. We kind of get government out of the way, if you will, and just, you know, let folks and let businesses, you know, grow and thrive, create those meaningful jobs. And certainly I think as a delegation, we know that the specific issues that we face on a daily basis, that, you know, there's a lot of common ground there. We've heard some of that. And so whether it's healthcare, whether it's education, I think that we are really poised as a state to have an incredible recovery here. That's certainly going to it's going to you know, lead this nation. So you know, that's coming from a small business owner standpoint, but I think it's something that certainly needs to be said.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Let me turn it over to Albie to close this out.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt. And thank you, Senator and Representative and the entire delegation for joining this again. I know we've said this before, and we say it every year, that this is going to be an interesting session, and you all definitely said that, but definitely want to thank you again for your service this upcoming year. It's this session is definitely going to be a little bit stranger than most, but again, I know that you're making a lot of sacrifices this year with your family, but then putting yourselves also in the thick of everything up in Tallahassee. So there's a lot going on this year, and just can't thank you enough for your service this upcoming year. And we've got a lot that we've discussed this during this past hour, and even more that we didn't even crack the surface on, but look forward to watching what we've all got to accomplish in this upcoming 60 days. Thank you again. All right, Matt.
Thank you all very much. Legislators, thank you so much for being flexible, and we'll see you on March 31st for St. Pete Day virtually in Tallahassee. I'll be up there working with all of our delegation and other members of legislature throughout the state. We're going to put together a great event for you all to join us virtually. So thank you all very much. Have a great day. Stay safe.
Bye-bye.